Tom Walker stood at the grand window of the Galactic Council station, watching the blue marble of Earth floating in the distance. His hands were shaking as he read the secret document on his tablet for the 5th time. As Earth's ambassador to the Council, he had learned to stay calm in difficult situations, but this was different. This was betrayal. The meeting room behind him buzzed with activity as Council members gathered for their emergency session. High Councilor Reed, with his tall, gray-skinned figure and 4 gleaming eyes, sat at the head of the massive table. Other alien representatives filled their seats, some humanoid, others completely foreign in appearance. "The vote will now begin," Reed announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The matter before us is simple: Earth's quarantine for the protection of less developed species." Tom turned from the window, his face red with anger. This is nonsense. Earth has followed every regulation about contacting developing worlds. We've been model citizens of the galaxy. Reed's upper eyes blinked slowly while his lower ones stayed fixed on Tom. "Ambassador Walker, please. This is not personal. We have reports of humanity's rapid technological growth. Your species went from primitive rockets to quantum drives in less than a century. It's concerning." "Concerning?" Tom laughed bitterly. "You mean threatening. I've seen the real reports, the ones you tried to hide. You're afraid of us." Murmurs spread through the chamber. A blue-skinned representative stood up. "How dare you access classified council documents? This only proves humanity cannot be trusted." Tom held up his tablet. "We trusted you. We shared our advances, helped with the Quantum Barrier Project, joined your peacekeeping missions, and this is how you repay us." "The vote proceeds," Reed declared, ignoring Tom's outburst. "All in favor." Hands, tentacles, and appendages of various kinds rose into the air. Tom counted them with growing horror. It was unanimous. Reed's face showed no emotion. "The quarantine begins immediately. May the stars forgive us." Tom rushed to the communication panel, but it was dead. He looked out the window just in time to see it happen. A shimmer appeared in space, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. It spread rapidly, forming a massive sphere around Earth and its nearby space. "No!" Tom slammed his fist against the window. "Our colonies. Our ships." The quarantine barrier solidified into a faint purple haze. On its outer edge, a passenger ship tried to turn but was too late. It struck the barrier and exploded in a silent flash. Then another, and another. "You're killing innocent people," Tom roared, spinning to face the council. "Regrettable losses," Reed said softly, "but necessary. The barrier will hold Earth and its colonies in a limited space. You can travel between your worlds, but no further. This is more merciful than what some members suggested." Through the window, Tom watched helplessly as more ships hit the barrier. Some were Earth vessels trying to get home. Others were attempting to escape. The casualty numbers were climbing by the second. "You've made a terrible mistake," Tom said quietly, his voice shaking with rage. "You think you're containing a threat. You're creating one. Humans don't react well to being caged." Reed stood, towering over Tom. "What choice do we have? In a few decades, you might surpass us all. We've seen how humans wage war. We've studied your history. This quarantine isn't just about protecting others. It's about protecting ourselves." Tom walked to the chamber door, then turned for one last look at the council. "You're right to be afraid. Not because of what we were, but because of what you're about to turn us into. When we get out, and we will get out, remember this moment. Remember that you started this." The door hissed shut behind him as Tom walked away. In the chamber, the council members watched Earth through the window, congratulating themselves on containing the human threat. None of them noticed the small smile on Tom's face as he left, or the hidden data chip in his pocket. None of them realized that humanity had prepared for this betrayal, and that their greatest mistake wasn't caging humanity. It was thinking the cage would hold. Behind the quarantine barrier, Earth glowed quietly in space, its seeming isolation masking the fury and determination of billions. The real war hadn't ended. It was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the barrier went up, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't officially exist. Commander Jane Stone stared at the holographic display of the quantum barrier. Dark circles under her eyes showed her lack of sleep, but her gaze remained sharp and focused. "Run the test again," she ordered, taking another sip of coffee. The massive underground chamber hummed with energy as dozens of scientists and engineers worked at their stations. They called this place the Nest, the heart of Operation Phoenix. Above them, through miles of rock, the purple shimmer of the barrier was always visible in Earth's sky, a constant reminder of their imprisonment. "Test running, Commander," reported Dr. Adams, his fingers flying over the control panel. "Quantum pulse in 3, 2, 1. A beam of concentrated energy shot from their experimental device, striking a small section of the barrier they'd recreated in the test chamber. For a split second, the purple field flickered. Jane leaned forward. "Did you see that?" "Yes," Dr. Adams exclaimed, his tired face breaking into a grin. "The barrier responded exactly like we predicted. It's definitely based on our own quantum technology. The stolen designs they took 3 years ago." A small smile crossed Jane's face. "The designs we let them steal." The chamber fell quiet as everyone remembered that day. The Council's spies had thought they'd hit the jackpot, stealing Earth's advanced quantum field research. They hadn't realized they were being fed exactly what humanity wanted them to have. "Status report," Jane called out, walking around the central platform. "Where do we stand?" A young technician named Mike stepped forward with a tablet. "We've confirmed the barrier's weakness, Commander. It flickers near quantum anomalies, just like our sabotage design suggested it would. Our hidden satellites have mapped several natural anomalies around the barrier sphere." "And the package?" Jane asked. "Successfully delivered," Mike replied. "Tom's data chip made it to our agents outside before the barrier went up. They've spent 5 years studying the Council's version of the technology. They confirm it matches our damaged designs exactly." Jane nodded, walking to the massive wall screen showing Earth's current situation. The barrier had changed everything. Cities had adapted, becoming more self-sufficient. The space between Earth and its colonies was well-traveled now, ships moving back and forth within their cosmic prison. To the Council, it probably looked like humanity had accepted its cage. They couldn't have been more wrong. "Commander," a voice called out. "Message from Deep Station Beta on Mars." "Put it through," Jane ordered. A hologram appeared, showing a dust-covered man in a mining uniform. "Commander, the special mining project is complete. All units are in position and ready for your command." "Excellent. Maintain radio silence and standard mining operations only." "Stone out." The hologram disappeared, and Jane turned to her team. 5 years of preparation, people. 5 years of letting them think they've won. How long until we can make our move? Dr. Adams consulted his screens. "The natural quantum anomalies will align in 3 months. That's our best chance to create multiple breaks in the barrier simultaneously." "And our friends outside?" "In position, Commander," Mike answered. "Sleeper agents report that the Council's gotten lazy. They really believe their barrier is unbreakable." Jane walked back to the quantum barrier display, studying the purple field that had caused so much death and pain. "Their biggest mistake wasn't putting up this barrier," she said quietly. "It was giving us time to plan our response. Humanity doesn't break under pressure. We adapt, we prepare, and we remember." She turned to face her team, her voice firm with determination. "Send the word to all stations. Operation Phoenix enters final phase. In 3 months, we show the Council exactly what happens when you cage humanity." Throughout the massive underground facility, people straightened with purpose. Machines hummed, data flowed, and secret preparations continued. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, humanity's revenge was taking shape, piece by carefully planned piece. The council thought they had contained the human threat. Soon, they would learn just how wrong they were. Marcus Black sat in his office on the council's central space station, looking exactly like any other mid-level maintenance supervisor. He checked his watch, an ordinary-looking device that doubled as a quantum-encrypted communicator, and smiled. After 5 years of waiting, it was finally time. "Sir," his assistant called from the door, "the annual maintenance review is ready for your signature." Marcus nodded, keeping his expression neutral despite his excitement. "Thank you, Lisa." She wasn't just his assistant. She was another sleeper agent, one of thousands scattered throughout council space. As soon as she left, he activated his watch. The holographic display showed a simple message: Phase 3 active. Time to wake the sleeping giants. Long before the quarantine, Earth had known this day might come. While the Council watched Earth's ships and monitored its communications, they'd missed something crucial. Humans had been emigrating to Council worlds for decades, getting normal jobs, starting families, making friends, all while carefully placing themselves in positions that would matter when the time came. Marcus opened his computer terminal and began his daily routine of checking station systems. No one noticed that he was also sending coded wake-up calls to hundreds of sleeper agents. To the Council's security systems, it looked like routine maintenance data. In the Council's main shipyard, engineer Pete Rogers received the signal while inspecting a new warship. He'd helped design the shipyard's security systems 3 years ago. Now those systems would serve a different purpose. "All good here," he reported to his alien supervisor. "Just updating the security protocols." The supervisor nodded, their 4 arms moving in a gesture of approval. They didn't realize that Pete had just installed a backdoor into every ship's control system. On the Council's home world, Dr. Linda Chase taught quantum physics at their most prestigious university. When her watch vibrated with the signal, she continued her lecture without pause. Her students didn't know that their teacher had spent years subtly guiding Council research away from discovering the flaws in their barrier technology. Back in his office, Marcus received confirmation signals from across Council space. Sleeper agents were active in power plants, communication centers, military bases, and government offices. Some were humans who'd moved to alien worlds before the quarantine. Others were aliens who'd seen the Council's injustice and chosen to help Earth. His computer chimed with an incoming message from Commander Stone. "Status report." Marcus typed quickly. "Operation successful. Sleeper network activated. You won't believe how many of us there are." The Council really should have checked their employment records more carefully. "Excellent," came the reply. "Begin Phase 3 preparations. Time to show them our hidden teeth." Marcus stood and walked to his window, looking out at the massive Council fleet stationed around the central command station. The ship's purple quantum shields glowed softly, the same technology they used to imprison Earth. But today, those shields would get their first real test. His watch buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Tom Walker, the former Earth ambassador. "Tell our people to be ready. When the barrier falls, things will happen fast." The Council thinks they know what humans are capable of. Time to educate them. Marcus sent out one final coded signal to his network. Across Council space, thousands of seemingly ordinary workers, engineers, teachers, and officials received the same message. "Remember your training. Remember Earth. The Phoenix rises in 3 days." He watched a Council security patrol pass by his office, oblivious to the fact that their own security chief was a human agent. The Council had been so focused on containing Earth that they'd forgotten about the humans already among them. They'd forgotten that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its adaptability. It was patience. In 3 days, the quantum barrier would fall. But by then, the Council's defeat would already be certain, engineered from within by the very people they'd dismissed as harmless immigrants and workers. Marcus sat back down at his desk and continued his routine work, hiding a smile. The Council had built a cage for humanity, never realizing they'd locked themselves in with a clever predator. Admiral Kate Ross stood on the bridge of her ship, hidden deep within the massive underground facility on Mars. The vessel wasn't visible from the surface. None of Earth's secret fleet was. For 5 years, they had built these ships in massive underground caverns, preparing for this moment. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer announced. "The quantum anomalies are aligned perfectly." Kate nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the barrier above them. "Send the signal to Commander Stone. Operation Phoenix is go." Across the solar system, in hidden bases on moons, asteroids, and underground facilities, humanity's secret fleet powered up. Each ship was special, built using the knowledge of how the Council's barrier really worked, knowledge the Council thought humans didn't have. "Quantum pulse generators at full power," reported the science officer, ready to create synchronized breaks in the barrier. Kate took a deep breath. "Send the countdown to all ships. Prepare to surface on my mark." On Earth, Commander Stone watched from the nest as hundreds of signals lit up her display. Every hidden ship was in position. Every quantum pulse generator was ready. 5 years of preparation came down to this moment. "This is Admiral Ross to all ships." Kate's voice rang out across the fleet. "Remember your training. Remember why we fight. 3, 2, 1, break." Simultaneously, at 12 different points around the solar system, massive quantum pulse generators fired. The barrier's purple field flickered, then split open as the carefully calculated pulses hit it at exactly the right spots. The Council's stolen technology was being used against them. "Barriers down," shouted the tactical officer. "We have multiple stable openings. All ships, surface, and-launch," Kate commanded. Across Mars, the ground began to shake. Massive doors hidden under red sand slid open. From Earth's oceans, hidden underwater bases activated. From the dark sides of moons and asteroids, concealed hangar doors opened to space. The Council's monitoring stations picked up the activity too late. Before they could react, hundreds of ships burst through the openings in the barrier. Earth's hidden fleet was unleashed, each vessel specifically designed to counter Council technology. "First target acquired," Kate's weapons officer reported. "Council monitoring station in range." "Fire at will," Kate ordered. "Disable their communications first, just like we planned." The Council station never saw the attack coming. Quantum-tipped missiles slipped right through their shields based on the same flawed technology as the barrier. In seconds, their communications were down. "All ships report success," the tactical officer called out. "Multiple Council stations disabled. No casualties as planned. They're just blind and deaf now." Kate allowed herself a small smile. The Council had expected humans to build big guns and stronger ships. Instead, they'd built smarter ones, ships that could slit through quantum shields, weapons that disabled rather than destroyed. The Council would soon learn that humanity had no interest in simple revenge. They wanted victory. "Message from Marcus Black," the communications officer announced. "Sleeper agents are in position. Council military bases are reporting system failures across their network." "Excellent." Kate watched as more Council stations went dark on her tactical display. "Launch Phase 2. Tell the colony ships to move in." Behind Earth's attack fleet, massive ships emerged from their hidden docks. These weren't warships. They carried thousands of human civilians, ready to establish bases in strategic locations the moment they were secured. Humanity wasn't just breaking out. They were expanding. "Council ships approaching from Sector 7, reported the tactical officer. "Right on schedule," Kate replied calmly. "Let them come. Their quantum shields won't help them anymore." The Council fleet arrived expecting to find a ragtag group of escaped humans. Instead, they found themselves facing a professionally trained armada that knew exactly how to counter their every move. Their shields flickered and failed against weapons specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses. "The Council fleet is retreating," announced the tactical officer. "They're calling for reinforcements." "Let them," Kate said, watching the council ships flee. Let them tell everyone what they found here. Phase 1 is complete. Earth is no longer cage. She turned to her crew, her eyes bright with determination. Now we show them why they should have feared us before they made us angry. Marcus Black walked calmly through the chaos of the Council's central command station. Alarms blared everywhere. Alien officials ran back and forth, their faces showing fear and confusion. Everything was falling apart around them, exactly as planned. "Sir," Lisa, his assistant, rushed up to him. "The Council is demanding emergency reports from all departments." "Then we should give them what they want," Marcus replied with a slight smile. He checked his watch, the same watch that had just sent shutdown codes to half the station's security systems. In the main control room, alien technicians frantically tried to restore their systems. None of them noticed that their human coworkers were typing just a little faster than usual, entering commands that looked like repair attempts but were actually triggering more failures. "This is impossible," shouted the chief of security, all 6 of his eyes blinking rapidly. "How did they get through our barriers? How did they disable our shields?" Marcus stepped forward, still playing his role as a helpful maintenance supervisor. "Sir, I might be able to help restore the main computer." Yes, do it." The chief waved him toward the central console. Marcus sat down and began typing. Instead of fixing anything, he activated the final phase of the Sleeper Agent's plan. Across council space, thousands of hidden programs awakened. 5 years of carefully placed backdoors opened all at once. In the council's military headquarters, General Rob Taylor, who had worked his way up through their ranks over the past decade, received Marcus's signal. He calmly locked his office door and activated his own computer. "Warning," the base's AI announced. "Unknown program detected in defense networks. Security override Taylor Phoenix 7. Rob spoke clearly. The AI went quiet. Another piece of humanity's long game paid off. He had helped design the military's security protocols years ago. On the Council's homeworld, Professor Linda Chase walked into the quantum research facility where she had worked for years. The guards nodded to her as always. They didn't know she carried a quantum key that would disable every barrier generator in the capital city. "Just running some final tests," she told her alien colleagues as she entered the main lab. They trusted her completely. After all, she had helped build these systems. The next moment, every quantum shield in the city flickered and died. Back on the station, Marcus received confirmation signals from across council space. Military bases found their weapons locked down. Shield generators failed. Communication networks crashed. Doors that should have been sealed stayed open. Security cameras showed empty corridors instead of what was really happening. "Sir," a young alien officer burst into the control room. "We're getting reports of system failures from every major facility. Nothing is working." The chief of security spun around, his face pale. "How is this possible? Our systems are independent. They can't all fail at once." Marcus stood up from the console, no longer pretending. "Actually, they're not independent at all. Haven't been for years. You should have checked your employees more carefully." The chief's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You're one of them." "We all are," Marcus said, gesturing to several other human workers who had stopped pretending as well. "Did you think we'd just wait inside that barrier? We've been out here the whole time, preparing." The station's main screen lit up with a familiar face, Tom Walker, the former Earth ambassador. "Attention Council forces. Your weapons are disabled. Your shields are down. Your communications are under our control. 5 years ago, you tried to cage humanity. Today, you learn why that was a mistake." Marcus watched the aliens' faces as they finally understood. Their perfect system, their unbreakable security, their technological superiority. It had all been compromised from the inside, piece by piece, year after year, by the very people they saw it every day but never really noticed. "Don't worry," Marcus told the stunned chief of security. "No one needs to die today. We're not here for revenge. We're here for change. The Council's time is over. Humanity is ready to introduce a new way of doing things. Outside the station's windows, Earth's fleet moved into position, their weapons armed but not firing. They didn't need to. The real battle had already been won, not with ships and guns, but with patience, planning, and the Council's biggest blind spot: their inability to believe that humans could outthink them. High Counselor Reed stood at the head of the emergency session table, his four eyes darting between the screens showing chaos across Council space. The Great Chamber, usually a place of order and power, now felt like a trap. Warning lights flashed everywhere, and the sounds of distant explosions echoed through the halls. How did this happen? He demanded, slamming his fist on the table. How did they get past every defense we had? The doors slid open, and Tom Walker walked in. The former Earth ambassador looked exactly the same as he had 5 years ago, but now he wore a confident smile. Behind him came Marcus Black and Commander Jane Stone. "You still don't understand, do you?" Tom said, walking to the center of the room. "Your defenses failed because they were never really yours to begin with." Reed's guards raised their weapons, but nothing happened when they pulled the triggers. Their guns were as dead as every other piece of Council technology. Looking for these, Jane held up a small device. "We control your weapons now. Actually, we control everything. Would you like to know how?" Around the chamber, Council members shifted nervously in their seats. Some tried to send messages on their devices, but nothing worked. 5 years ago, Tom continued, "you thought you were stealing our quantum technology. But we knew you were watching. We knew you were spying. So we gave you exactly what we wanted you to have. Flawed designs that would work perfectly until we decided they shouldn't." Marcus stepped forward, holding up his maintenance supervisor's badge. "While you were busy watching Earth, you never noticed us. The maintenance workers, the engineers, the teachers, thousands of humans and friendly aliens, all working together, all placing small backdoors into your systems. Impossible." Reed shouted. "Our security was designed by us." Jane cut in. "Those independent contractors you hired, human companies operating through alien fronts, those security protocols you trusted, written by our people. You were so convinced of your superiority that you never bothered to look closely at who was actually building your systems." Through the massive windows, they could see Earth's fleet surrounding the Council capital. But there was no battle, no destruction. Every Council ship hung powerless in space, their quantum shields and weapons disabled by the same flaws that had been built into them years ago. "Admiral Ross reports all Council military assets are secured," Jane announced, checking her tablet. "No casualties, no destruction, just like we planned." Reed sank into his chair, his gray skin turning pale. "What do you want?" "Revenge." Tom walked up to his former adversary. "If we wanted revenge, you'd already be dead. No, what we want is change. The Council's time is over. Your way of ruling through fear and suppression ends today. You can't just—" Reed began. "We already have," Marcus interrupted. "Look around you. We control your technology. We have proof of your crimes, not just against Earth, but against dozens of species. Right now, our agents are broadcasting the truth to every world in Council space." On the screens around the chamber, images began playing. Secret Council meetings planning the betrayal of Earth. Hidden documents showing suppression of other races. Evidence of corruption and abuse of power that had gone on for centuries. "The choice is simple," Tom said, addressing all the Council members. "Resign peacefully and face fair trials for your actions, or resist and watch as we reveal even more of your secrets. Either way, the Council as you knew it is finished." Reed looked around the chamber, seeing defeat on every alien face. They had built their power on technological superiority and fear. Now, faced with a species that had completely outmaneuvered them, they had nothing left. "There will be chaos," Reed whispered. "No," Jane said firmly. "There will be change. Earth and its allies are ready to help build something better. A true galactic assembly where all species have a voice, where advancement is encouraged, not feared, where cooperation replaces control. Tom stepped to the center of the chamber one last time. 5 years ago, you tried to cage humanity because you feared what we might become. Today, you learn what we already were, smarter than you thought, more patient than you imagined, and far better at playing the long game than you ever suspected. Outside, the sun rose over the council capital, marking the dawn of a new era in galactic history. The mighty council had fallen, not to violence or brute force, but to the quiet, careful planning of the very species they had tried to contain. 1 month after the council's fall, the great chamber looked very different. The old council's symbols of power had been replaced with a simple hologram showing all known inhabited worlds, spinning slowly in the center of the room. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the seats, many attending their first galactic gathering. Tom Walker stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse assembly. Behind him sat Commander James Stone, Admiral Kate Ross, and Marcus Black, the architects of humanity's greatest strategic victory. "Welcome to the first session of the Galactic Assembly," Tom announced, his voice carrying to all corners of the chamber. "Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples." In the front row, several former council races sat uncomfortably. Their representatives were new, the old leaders having resigned to face trial for their crimes. They watched nervously as Tom activated the main display screen. "Our first order of business is simple," he continued. "The removal of all remaining quantum barriers across galaxy. No more will any species be caged or contained." Around the room, delegates from previously suppressed races broke into applause. Many of them had suffered under similar containment barriers, though none as complete as Earth's had been. "But what about security?" asked a delegate from one of the former council worlds. "How do we maintain order without control?" Admiral Ross stepped forward to answer. "Through cooperation, not domination. Earth's fleet now patrols trading routes alongside ships from 30 other worlds. We protect each other. We learn from each other." "And the technology?" another delegate asked. "Will Earth now keep its advances secret, as the Council did?" Commander Stone smiled. "Just the opposite. We're establishing the Galactic Science Academy, open to all species. No more hiding knowledge. No more stealing technology. We advance together, or not at all." Marcus Black activated a secondary display, showing construction projects across former Council space. Already, joint teams are building new facilities, research centers, trading posts, cultural exchanges. This is what we wanted all along. The chance to work together as equals. Tom raised his hand for attention. "But let us not forget the lesson of the past month. The Council fell not because of superior weapons or overwhelming force, but because they chose fear over friendship, control over cooperation. They feared humanity's potential so much that they never saw our true strength, our ability to plan, to adapt, and to work with others for a common goal." He gestured to the various alien representatives who had helped humanity. "Without friends from every species, our victory would have been impossible. The Council's greatest mistake was thinking they could cage an idea, the idea that different species could work together as equals." A small alien child, brought by one of the delegates, suddenly ran up to the podium. Instead of having her removed, Tom knelt down and lifted her up. The simple gesture spoke volumes about the difference between the old council and the new assembly. "This is why we fought," Tom said, letting the child wave to the crowd. "Not for revenge, but for a future where no child of any species grows up fearing containment or suppression. Where advancement is celebrated, not feared. Where diversity makes us stronger, not divided." The chamber erupted in applause. Even the former council races joined in, finally understanding that they had been offered something better than their old power. They had been offered real partnership. Jane Stone stood and raised her hand for quiet. "The trials of former council leaders will begin next week. But this is not about punishment. It's about justice and truth. Every species must face its past to build a better future. As the session continued, news broadcasts carried the proceedings to every world in known space. They showed the new Galactic Assembly in action. Different species working together, solving problems, planning joint ventures. The message was clear. The age of fear and control was over. In Earth orbit, the last pieces of the quantum barrier were being dismantled. Ships from a dozen worlds helped with the work, their crews working side by side with humans. The purple field that had meant imprisonment now faded away forever, replaced by something far stronger: trust between species. The Council feared what humanity might become. Tom said in his closing remarks, "Today we show them what we always were, not conquerors or revenge seekers, but builders. Together, we will build something that will last far longer than any barrier or council. We will build understanding." The Assembly's first session continued long into the night, as representatives from hundreds of worlds began the work of forging a new future. The revenge that had shocked the Council turned out to be the greatest gift to the galaxy: the end of fear and the beginning of true cooperation.